Could be my offer or somebody else's offer, and just bombard them with offers until they say, you know what, FTS.
You've probably heard of the saying, facts tell, but stories sell. Today, I'm going to show you whether you want to write ads, whether you want to send out emails, whether you want to create organic content, how do you utilize stories in any platform, in any format, the right way so that you can engage and ultimately convert, and most importantly, monetize, but doing it in a way that is fun, that is educational, that gets your audience hanging on to your every word. Today, I'm going to break down that exact formula, and by the end of this video, you're going to be able to see how you can start changing the way you create your ads, the way you write emails, in order to utilize your story or somebody else's story to create that piece of engaging content. Let's begin.
Let me get emails, focus on lead gen, and send them offers. It could be my offer or somebody else's offer, and just bombard them with offers until they say, you know what, FTS. You figure out what those things mean, those three letters mean, right? But it's basically, right, FTS, I'm done, and this is too much, so let me go somewhere else. Today's call is going to be very different from all of our usual calls. And the last time we did something like this was our first session when we did the kind of like the behind the scenes call where we did the voice over ad session. I'm talking about the process and the thought that is required and the strategy when it comes to writing good, compelling emails that not only convert, but also is engaging. You see, I feel that a problem a lot of marketers have is we spend a lot of time trying to get leads, right? We're running ads, we're utilizing Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. And while getting leads is great, and it's been a core focus of a lot of our calls, one thing that we haven't done in a while, that's right, Johnny mentions, like lead nurturing. So I want to be able to show you the same thing I would train my team, the same way how I'll write emails, follow-up sequences, and the different types of stories that you could be writing and how to integrate them into your offers so that your audiences keep coming back for more. We're going to call it the story selling strategy. And what we're going to be doing is I'm going to walk you through, well, how do we utilize this art and science of telling stories in our emails? Why are stories powerful? Let's begin with that, okay? Like, why is it powerful when utilized in your emails? Why is it powerful when you're utilizing it in your or any other platforms for that matter? Well, a couple of reasons, okay? So number one, it's the connection. You're building a connection, the rapport with your audience. They're able to understand you, your background, your belief systems, how you look at business, life, right? Whatever it is that might be your topic. You avoid list burnout. Like I mentioned, right? It's no longer churn and burn, but now people are actually excited to open up your email because you're giving them value. There are different stories incorporated in there. And once you understand the process, you realize how to do this in a very authentic way so that you're not making up stories, but rather it is based on your observations as well as things that might have happened for you. There's a lot of different types of stories, right? It could be something that's current, something that's in the news. It could be a story about common mistakes people might have. It could be a story on how to achieve their goal. It could be a story that has got an analogy about something you noticed in life. Now, I could keep going on about these different type of stories. But once I show you how to think about it, you're going to realize that the list is really endless. Usually, you can start off by taking a story and notice like this story is based on something that's current. It's an observation. Whatever story that you might pick, I'm going to show you many different examples, but the first piece usually begins, right? 4-part framework usually begins with, well, what is the story? So once you've told the story, number 2, please write down, is the transition. How do you transition to the story, from the story to ultimately making that offer, right? The offer could be them going on a webinar. It could be going for, getting a free copy of your book. It could be opting in. It could be going to your e-com store. it could be, reading that sales page. So number 2 is basically the transition. And the transition, there is a lot of different words that you can utilize. I listed down a few over here, right? It could be, so you're probably wondering, what does this have to do with topic name, right? It could be, so listen closely, or oddly enough, or so you know what else? So here's what this is all about, right? Now that I've told you this story, right? Or if I had to sum it up, or here's the too long did not read version, right? Don't you think it's kind of like driving traffic? Don't you think it's kind of like branding? Don't you think it's kind of like self-defense? Don't you think it's kind of like, right? Kind of like topic. So over here, 4 parts, right? So this part here, let's put this yellow. Yellow is the story. Green is how I transitioned. After I told the story, I need to transition to the next thing. So if it was a far-fetched story, it would be like, so of course this seems a little bit far-fetched, but, or how does this story make you feel? Or, so the simple truth is, or it's suddenly, so that's when it hit me that this is very much just like topic name, right? Or it could be, so the moral of the story is, right, transition. Or it could be, I'm telling you this story because it's kind of like topic name. It could be, so I have to admit something about this story, right? It could be like, so why am I telling you this story? Well, right? So it's transitioning to something that they might not be able to see relevance to, okay? And that's why you're transitioning, okay? So you're going to tell them that the transition, usually in 1 or 2 sentences, that is when you are going to move on to step number 3. After you have done the story, after you've transitioned, number 3 is when you are going to go into number 3. Please write down, it's the takeaway. You got to be able to teach them something and summarize the takeaway. Okay? So for example, this Logan Paul versus Mayweather, it would be like, so what does this have to do with marketing your business? Everything, right? Number 1, notice that they have an offer that people wanted to and were willing to pay for. Number 2, they had a funnel that people could buy this offer in just 1 click. Number 3, that traffic, right? They had huge amounts of attention that was based on trash talking, which helped build the hype and anticipation for the fight, right? So notice what I did. I utilized an observation, I turned it into a story, and now number 3 is the takeaway, right? I transition into a takeaway, right? So what does this have to do, right? So you're probably wondering, what does Logan Paul and Mayweather have to do with my business? So you're probably thinking, right? So this might seem a little bit far-fetched, right? So notice a transition, and then I did a takeaway. And then finally, number 4, right? After I did the takeaway and I taught them something, number 4 is where, please write down the call to action, right? So that's when I noticed, I would say, so what if the one thing that all these components share is the message behind it? And what if I could show you how to do this without the trash talking? And what if you could, utilize messaging for your products, programs, and services? So if you're somebody that wants to generate more income without all the complications, right? Then Old School New Strategy is right around the corner. It's a 3-day event, right? Are you ready to take a punch in a marketing game? Let's go, right? Call to action. And I said that usually once, maybe a year, I would utilize this email title called Final Notice. And it's usually very short. It just comes from the angle of, final notice. I've said this multiple times, but right now we are taking this thing off the table. Click on this link if you want to be a part of this. Now, while those emails are effective and it gets clicks, I can't be doing that and sending it out every day, right? Because if every day was a final notice, right, they're going to give me their final notice, okay? And that's when people are going to opt out, okay? So green's the transition, okay? So notice that over here, this is the story, okay? After that, this would be the transition, okay? And then after that, this also should be in green, okay? Now, what is this? Number 3 is the takeaway. So the takeaway, I'm going to put this in like, yeah, it's a little bit hard to read, but number 3 is the takeaway. And finally, the 4th part is, right? Notice this is the call to action. Okay, so this is what and how I think about writing emails based on observations. Now, initially, if you're doing this for the first time, it might seem a little bit weird, like you're not, used to it, because it's a muscle, okay? And if you're not used to this because you've never done it before, that's when you need practice, okay, which is what we are going to be doing here on this call here as well. Okay, so this is basically what this looks like. Karen, welcome. I am going to unmute you right now. Okay, Karen, welcome. Tell us just off the cuff, right? So based on this example, if you were to utilize this story, so imagine you just told this story exactly the way you copy and paste this start. Okay, so imagine right now, okay, here's the task. Okay, so right now I'd like you to imagine that Karen, she literally just utilized this same exact open. Okay, imagine same exact open, and right now she's at number 2. Okay, transition. Okay, how would the transition and the takeaway sound like for your market, Karen? Take it away.
Oof, okay, I was hoping I would get some more thinking time.
Well, this is the thinking time right here.
Right. So I would transition by saying, so what does this fight between two men have to do with you and you wanting to become a property investor? Well, it's very simple. Both of these men had a goal in mind and they were willing to do whatever it takes to reach that goal, even if it meant coming out of retirement as a, what is he, as a boxer? Coming out of retirement as a boxer, or stepping out of your comfort zone as a YouTube expert and doing something really crazy like taking on the world's best boxer ever. That is what both these two men were willing to do. Now, there's a saying.
Great, so that's a takeaway.
Okay,
so we have a takeaway. Let's transition from the takeaway to a call to action. How would that sound like now?
Now, there is a saying that goes, if you want something you've never had, you have to do something that you've never done. So if you want to achieve great results in property investment, whether you own property already or not, it doesn't matter. Click on the link below and attend my next webinar where I'm going to show you how you can make money in property even if you don't own any.
Okay, great. Good job. So, first of all, guys, let's all give Karen a round of applause for the attempt. Now, one of the things that I'm always thinking about is how can I link the offer to the story again? Because that's when it doesn't feel like it's far-fetched, and that's when it feels like, oh, you know, like I don't see the connection. So if I wanted to link it back to the original story, so which is basically your takeaway was they had that intention, they began with the end in mind, they knew exactly what it is that they wanted and worked towards it, right? So if you would like to be able to begin with the end in mind and work towards that goal, I want to be able to show you how to do that in this upcoming training of mine. Okay, so what I want to be able to see and hear is you linking to that thing. And by the way, right, guys, so notice that that's one way of saying it, right? There's could be a lot of different takeaways. So if let's say if it's property, okay, if I wanted to transition it, if let's say I was a property investor, or want to be able to educate people on investing in property, another one could be, so story, right? Transition would be, so you're probably thinking, what does this fight have anything to do with investing in property? Well, what if I told you that the lesson here really is when attention is on something or someone, that is when it becomes overpriced. You see, a lot of people that went to that match complained and said it was a waste of their time. There were even complaints of people saying, I watched the bootleg version of that event and I want to have my money back. That's how much people were disappointed with that fight. Now, what does that mean? What does this have to do with property? It just means that the more hyped up a property is, the more overvalued it is. And ultimately, if you want to be able to find a property that is below market value, you want to be able to find one that does not have much attention on it, one that people are not looking at. And if you want to be able to find these hidden gems, that's where I want to be able to invite you to this upcoming training, right? Whatever, right? So notice that it's very flexible, right? Guys, what I'm trying to show you is it's not a hard and fast rule of how things should go a certain way, but to train you how to think about it and how to tell that story and utilize these stories as good, engaging hooks that you can model and follow, right? Again, not everyone is going to be able to utilize this specific story, right? You might not be able to utilize this story if it's, well, you know, astrology. Well, maybe you can. I can feel, you know, find a few different ways to kind of, right? But this is where you gotta think, you know, think about, well, how does this connect to my thing? Very nice, Karen. Okay, let's do one more, and then we'll practice again, and then we'll keep going back and forth. Okay, next person, Christina Okoli, welcome. So imagine right now, so same thing as Karen here. Christina, welcome, good to have you here. Walk us through how that would sound like if you were to kind of utilize this framework.
So what did the fight between Floyd Mayweather and Logan Paul have to do with you and your marketing? Well, what we can learn from it is that it's about creating contrast. You want to create the unexpected. You want to bring together two things that don't necessarily fit together, and you want to pitch them against each other in your marketing. It's basically the David and Goliath story, where you had the underdog versus the giant. And that's what drew people to that story. And you can use that in your marketing. If you bring together two things that don't necessarily fit and make them work together, you get people's attention on you.
Perfect. So that's a good takeaway. How would you link the takeaway to the call to action next?
So my call to action is for you to think about how you can find two things that don't fit and make them, pull them together into a story that you can use in your emails, in your funnel marketing, in your text. So go and find two things that don't fit and see whether you can find a story that connects them together in an unexpected way.
Perfect. Very nice. Right. So when it comes to marketing, I think that like this is one thing that is, you know, like there's just so many ways to talk about it, right? It could be, so what does this have to do with marketing? Everything, right? Why would like literally so many people pay on pay-per-view to watch this overpriced match that wasn't even fair to begin with? It was because of the hype and the anticipation and story. That was what made this thing work. What if I could show you how to utilize hype and anticipation and storytelling in your marketing the same way they utilize these three things in marketing this event, right? So same thing here, right? Marketing, right? Great attempt. Well done, Christina, right? So here's what, before we move forward, here's what I'd like you guys to notice, okay? I'm going to give you a few different examples. I want you to start thinking about how it can be utilized and what's that bridge, what's the connection. So having these type of emails makes your open rate higher, makes it more engaging in the long run, right? Short run, you might not be able to compete with a title that just says final notice. Again, if you don't want to play the churn and burn game, and if you want your audience to be opening your emails, to be excited because they're getting insights on this, then that is when you should be able to, you want to be able to incorporate these type of things.
Well, I hope you enjoyed the behind the scenes to this coaching call. If you enjoyed this video, let me know in the comments below what your biggest takeaway is. And as always, be sure to smash the like button. It does help the channel out a little bit. And to subscribe to this channel if you want to be notified of future videos just like this one. Now, some of you asking me, how can I be part of this process? How can I ask you questions? How can I have you coach me or mentor me? We want to make sure that we are working with the people that's the right fit. You'll need to fill up a form. There's a link right below this video. Somebody on my team might give you a call to interview you to see if they're right fit for each other. And if you want to apply and see if you're a good fit, then all you need to do is click on this link in the description box below and my team will be in touch with you.